It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to The Focus Group. John Nash here with my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. Thanks for joining us. If you're on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, feel free to join the conversation anytime you like. The phone number here is 1-877-962-6846. And visit focusgroupradio.com for all the information about our audio and our video streams. Thanks to everybody for continuing to tune in to Unbuttoned, our new Tuesday podcast. Comes out Tuesday. It's about 20 minutes. We usually tackle about 3 topics, sometimes LGBT, sometimes not, but we see that it's getting good traction, so thank you all for continuing to download that. And just before the show started, we were having a good laugh with our team in the booth, John and Garrett. We have John on video, we have Garrett on audio, and as we were laughing...
I think if the number was bigger, we'd get more calls. That's what I always say. I don't know how you read that number.
I read it off there.
Oh, you cheated.
What's on?
There's a secret number posted above the
set up for that. But right before we came on, we were all having a laugh about something, and just as the music started and John queued up the music, I thought, Tim's back. You're back.
I'm back.
You're back. So for 6 weeks, maybe even longer, you were dealing with increasing levels of discomfort and pain, but now you're back.
And one of our listeners actually contacted me, that Jeff,
Yeah.
And he's thinking of getting the same surgery, and I told him not to wait.
Yeah.
So if you need back surgery, and they've, even what they've done 3 years ago versus today. And that's why I think a lot of doctors say if you can hold off on a knee or you can hold off on something,
it's better.
The surgery just keeps getting perfected.
That's that game of quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm still hobbling a little, but I don't need the cane.
So today is one of Tim's favorite types of shows. It's a guestless show. There's no guests. It's just me and Tim.
That's all people tune in for. Nobody cares about your book author or about your...
They do. I think they like our guests.
I don't know. Do you guys think anyone cares about the book author? Look at him.
No.
Not that we haven't had good authors. I will say the last few authors we had on, we had Jean Bliss on last week, but we've been a lot more discerning. Back in our old day...
Had anybody on.
You could, and we did.
Including the author who 2 seconds before the mics went on told you when I'm coming back from a rare bathroom break that he shouldn't ask any direct questions.
I was thinking about that the other day. I should start a blog of my favorite guests that John picked. So, because usually when things have gone south, it's been somebody you picked. It was the typography guy. It was the guy with Asperger's. It was the one that had all the stories to tell that froze in front of the mic.
It was Ronnie.
I mean, it's hilarious. And that one time when that guy, we used to do pre-records at Sirius, and we had 45 minutes. Why we ever booked 45 minutes for this guy?
Well, we were told that
in his first question in 30 seconds, he had nothing, and you're trying to pull something out of him. And I remember Katie just pulled the mic away. We're like, what are we going to do with this guy?
Yeah.
And then the other guy that wrote that book,
Just My Type, British author, and we were amazed that no one at Sirius booked the author.
Well, you said he's wide open. We can have him anytime we want.
Open. We got hard cover. The book looked great. We have a studio set up. He comes in, sits down, says a quiet hello. The mics go on, and Tim goes, "What's your favorite typeface?" "Well, mine could possibly Palatino."
I hate to make fun of someone's stutter, but the publicist should have told us.
We would have navigated it differently.
Another 25 minutes.
So what happened with that interview was...
I was sweating.
As the minute he started doing that, you turned your chair. So
so I couldn't look at you.
Couldn't look at me, because if you looked at me, you'd start laughing.
My favorite type. And then we had the guy with Asperger's who said he didn't want to be asked direct questions.
And then we had Gene Nidich.
I was sweating on that one,
Watchers.
too.
When you are obese, you shop with other obese women at Lane Bryant.
Her dentures kept falling.
They clicked. Click, click, click. And then everybody in the studio was like, oh, she's on. She's on. It's a good day. Again, we looked, and then Tim turns his chair, looks at the clock. We had 20
Gene, what
minutes.
was your go-to snack, Gene?
Malamars in the freezer.
Horrible. God bless her soul.
She was fantastic.
It was our second dead guest. The first one was the guy from Ridgemount.
Fast Times at Richmond High, the pizza
guy.
delivery guy. He was on with Lisa Birnbach once from Preppy Handbook, and shortly thereafter he had passed away. Yeah. So today,
There's a few others.
you know, here's the thing that I don't think anybody really knows, or you may suspect this, but if you're live, there's nowhere to hide.
No.
So if something is bad in the first 2 minutes, you're climbing up the hill. You're suffering. You're suffering until you get that interview done, right?
Yeah, well, there've been some fun ones. We should maybe we'll do a clip reel one time of our best of.
We'd have to go back to the archive and look at all the audio, because there were some surprise guests too. People we thought were going to be like dry as toast.
were
They ended up
fantastic.
being hilarious, or they came to play and they brought their A game.
Well, Gene came to play last week, so that was good. And when and when I was sick both times for your. You did
the
the
booze.
booze.
The booze. Well-
Kara Kenny, she came to play too. And I will tell you again, that setup you guys had for
Looked great.
for Cinco de Mayo was
a,
unbelievable.
Nectar Girl,
Yeah, it looked
and
great.
it was Dolce Vita.
Vodka,
Dolce Vita vodka. And by the way, he had told me, he gave us each a T-shirt.
right?
That's a great T-shirt. Have you worn it yet?
Well, it's only a large. I mean, I might get it. I'm not.
They're a little.
It looked a little big. It's sitting on my dresser. I'm going
Once
to try.
just wash it. It's like the most.
Does it shrink?
Didn't shrink at all. It's a super comfortable T-shirt.
I haven't been in a large since freshman in college.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I haven't been in a medium since we were in Madrid, and you took that picture of me in front of Juan and Juan.
Well, listen, by the way, I mentioned this to you at lunch. I don't know if anyone out there lives near a Primark, Primark.
This is news
Have you guys
to
heard of
me. Have you heard of
It's an
Primark?
Irish department store. It's from Ireland, but most of
is
the
it-
stuff's made in China.
Okay, so its closest would
Bangladesh.
be like an H&M, a Zara.
It's like an
Okay.
H&M. And I got 2 bathing suits, 2 pairs of shorts, one with hula girls, one with lobsters, 2 T-shirts, and a pair of shoes.
Hula girls and lobsters.
$57.03 with the PA tax. Now I've got to take the shorts back because they're a little tight in the leg. There we go, Primark. So it's unbelievable
Hey
to me.
guys, so we're
So my friend
Primark.
Matt turned me on to this. So they've taken over a lot of the old J.C. Penney's that are going out, or the Sears stores. So there's one in Willow Grove Mall down there where I live. And so I went in there just on a whim to try to get some T-shirts, because I used to go to Old Navy or some of those places, and I saw that and I thought I'll give it a try. T-shirts were $3. And you wouldn't know any different than if you went and got one at Banana Republic
For 24.
for 24. So Primark, just like Aldi. Although, have you seen the new Aldi commercial with Charmin?
Uh-huh.
I was surprised by that. Were you?
I
It got away on TV. If you're going to take and it's an emoji of a poop, don't use an emoji of a poop. And they got the Aldi toilet paper and the Charmin.
and it was one of those brand comparisons. I'm like, we saw the ad upstate. We didn't see it because that's where Aldi is.
But I was surprised when I saw that. Were you?
It didn't. It actually was Bob who took notice of it, because he said, "Are they allowed to do that?" And I
you
said,
could if you
"Back in
don't
the
say
day,
it."
you used to be able to use other brand names on advertising to make a counter.
You can do that, but I meant to use showing the poop.
The poop emoji.
If you're going to take a emoji, don't use emoji. The little smiley face on it.
So what do we have going on today?
So today we've got the random sample, which is our take on LGBT news from around the U.S. or the globe. And so John and I each randomly pick 3 stories from usually some of the local LGBT newspapers. We did both come to our own conclusion this week that it was a little bit of a struggle in terms of some of the local newspapers seem to be dying.
Well,
Maybe that's a strong word.
That or they don't pay much attention to their website.
They're not up to
which
date.
is the modern way we get our...
But I still find the Washington Blade, the PGN, the Windy City Times, Dallas Voice, And
The
Seattle
Voice in
paper.
Atlanta, Georgia, The Voice, that's actually pretty up to date, and the Denver paper is as well. And
See, so you use those, the ones that I used
some are
were,
mine.
but there were a few others that the news was quite old. But you know, some of these small papers, in order to try to maintain a digital presence along with your printed presence, I'm sure is a struggle.
So the rest of the show is up to the rest of the show, which means it's time to ask you what caught your eye.
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So this was another one of these that I thought was a joke. So I always have to check these websites now because the Russians have made us all read fake news.
The Russians. Okay.
So-
All right. The Russians have made
That
us.
reminds me, there is one. Did I send it to you? So there apparently is a LGBT site the Russians have set up,
Yes,
and
you
they've
did
got
mention that.
thousands of.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll use it on Unbuttoned. So this headline was: "See what happens when kids bully a plant."
I love this story. Okay.
Because plants are people too. So, of course, somebody from IKEA, I don't know why I find IKEA stories all the time. I must be profiled. So it says somebody did this study with the department store IKEA in their UAE division. So the United Arab Emirates, which I found odd, but that's the group that did it along with their agency. It's an Ogilvy agency in Dubai. So they decided to do this feel-good video, and they wanted to say, for the kids, say no to bullying. And they thought they would use a plant to represent the bullying. So they had two different plants. They got them at the IKEA store, and IKEA was in on doing this. And I'll say it wrong because I can't get the pronunciation of it right, but it's Dracaena, Dracaena plants? Dracaena, but those plants with the long green leaves. Dracaena, is that how you say it? So Dracaena plants from the stores, and they were both fed the same amount of food, had the same amount of water, same amount of light, same amount of fertilizer. But one plant was subjected to verbal abuse while the other one was subjected to nice compliments and happy talk. So they recorded all these kids in a loop, and they just, for 30 days, did the compliments to the one plant and the bullying to the other plant. And so the kids' voices were on a constant loop. They did check it again to make sure, because people were questioning it, whether they had the same water, the same light, the same fertilizer. And of course, what happened? The complimented plant flourished at the end of 30 days, and the bullied plant withered. So those are the two actual plants. So then, of course, the scientists got involved. And they said, you know, is this pseudoscience? Is it anecdotal? Is it coincidence? Is it hoax? One person said, how did the plant know English?
You just voiced the only question I would have about the study, which is, in order for a compliment to be a compliment, you have to understand the English language. Yeah,
So if you're in the United Arab Emirates, they said they did it in English.
Okay.
But what if it was Swedish?
Maybe it's a tonality. Maybe we say things in a much nicer way.
So now that's where you're going. So of course I asked the question, how do plants understand different languages? But I used to ask that about animals too.
Yeah, because a dog and a cat will respond to you, but maybe they're just responding to the tone.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. So there was lots of research, though, that does suggest that if you nurture plants, that they will work or they will thrive. And but people were still skeptical about it, and so they did contact the ad agency, and they said that the plants were in fact treated the same throughout the whole 30 days, and they were quite impressed with the results. What they were scared about, though, is what if it didn't work? So the hypothesis was that one plant would flourish and one wouldn't, and this was to tell the kids that it's not good to bully.
if both flourished.
Then go ahead, kids, full steam ahead, start bullying. So that was the concern, and thank God it didn't happen. So they did Team Don't Bully Plants that came up. So the thought was that plants do have feelings, and a lot more feelings than we know. Did you ever hear that?
No.
So it says that plants actually are more aware of things than we give them credit for. I'm a scientist.
Okay, I'll buy it. You know.
And they said that. So one of the comments was somebody in one of the comment sections said this is old news, and it's not just bullying. Plants will react to hostile negativity, and it's more about sound waves, not about nature or composition. So they said it's the sound. So sound waves.
In Japan, many years ago, a scientist did a study where he took spring water from a pure source, and they measured the mineral content, the whole bit, and they put it in these glass cylinders, and they put them in a vault, and they would ask people to go to each cylinder and put a Post-it note, or the Post-it would say angry or whatever, and they would just think about angry thoughts. They would touch the thing, then they put them in a vault. when they came back, like I don't know how many weeks later, the water that had the angry energy put toward it was dirty and cloudy, and the stuff that had like happy, all this other stuff, clear as a bell. It's just one of those unusual things that it's hard to explain away, and I don't know that science, the science around the water experiment was like, okay, we have no idea why this is happening, but.
Well, my bigger question here was because, you know, the exact quote was, and this was a question I have for the gang here. They said there's plenty of research that suggests plants are much more aware of things than we think. So my point was, what if you're a vegan? So if these plants are aware and they've got a mind and they can
John just started laughing in the booth.
You know where I'm going with this, right? So these vegans that are eating celery and eating all these foods, are you killing a living thing? And how is that any different than eating cow or chicken?
There you go. Or fish.
They've proved that in forests and stuff, the plants talk to each other. And if one's low on some vitamin, the others won't take it, and they'll shoot it to the other ones. And
heard about this, yes.
Where was this?
Podcast, where I think it's Radio Lab.
Yeah, Radio
Lab. Another
Lab,
show you've got?
No, it's NPR.
NPR's
podcast.
Radio Lab, yeah.
It was
so if a plant's a little low on vitamins, the one plant will say, oh, I don't need it so much, take mine?
They help each other out.
Yeah, and they talk to each other through chemicals throughout the root systems and stuff.
You know, Tim, they're not sitting down having a coffee clutch.
So the tree doesn't have lips.
That goes all the way back
Subaru
to a great ad campaign you were
Lance
presenting.
Armstrong, where the bike's going to talk.
Somebody asked if the bicycle had lips.
Does the bike have lips?
Because the bike was going to talk.
I never heard that.
No, Radio Lab, by the way, is a cool NPR show. And yeah, so it makes sense that if they talk chemically, so if one is chemically deficient in niacin, let's say, or iron, maybe the other plants that are rich in that might feed that into the root system. So the other one...
But they have to communicate somehow.
Chemically. You're thinking it's got to have lips and it's got to have a conversation.
It's got to know it needs it.
It's got to order a vodka cranberry.
It's like I'm fascinated by the dolphin.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
That's a whole different show. What caught your eye?
It's a whole different show. On the lines of, this is another pet thing. I thought you had seen this. It's a grieving dog attends the owner's funeral and finds peace, again, after the pet parent's sudden death. Sadie, a 13-year-old Border Collie Dalmatian Shepherd mix, recently lost her owner and loyal companion, Andy Beaulieu, to a sudden heart attack. The dog, who Beaulieu had raised from a puppy, started showing signs of grief seconds after her best friend died. She was putting her head on his hand and trying to nuzzle him. After spending every weekday going to work with her dog, Sadie became despondent during the 10 days between the owner's death and his funeral. During that time, she displayed all the signs humans do during a loss. She lost weight, she couldn't sleep, she was restless. So Beaulieu's wife decided to take the dog to the funeral. And she thought the dog needed to say goodbye. So she takes the dog was the last
mourner.
Thank you. I was wondering how to say that. She went up to the casket. How did she put it? It was the last to come into the visitation, calmly approaching Beaulieu's casket with Julia to pay her respects. The canine placed her front paws on the casket and peered in before stepping down and exiting the service. Now, what do you think happened next?
Went outside and took a pee.
After saying her final goodbye at the service, Sadie returned home and ate 2 meals worth of food and soon went back to her normal day-to-day activities.
No way.
Yeah. And she's back to being happy and her normal weight. And but I was just fascinated by this. So the dog knew that the owner had died, right? And that somehow there was closure of maybe seeing that.
I've never heard of that. I've heard when dogs have died and dogs will wait or they'll lay by a grave or they'll stay with the body.
Or in hospitals, a dog will go around and sit next to someone that dies like a little bit later on.
So I've always heard of that, but I've never seen it. I've never heard of it make the connection
the
of
closure.
I see the bodies here and I'm okay.
So I had one other, and this is totally me. Did you guys know that Margot Kidder passed away? I don't think it was widely reported, actually. I mean, I just saw it pop up in the newsfeed. But for anybody who doesn't know, Margot Kidder played Lois Lane to Christopher Reeve's Superman in the 1977 or 78 film.
What else did she do after that?
Well, she was in the Amityville Horror. She played the mom in the Amityville Horror, and she was in The Great Waldo Pepper with Robert Redford, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud with Michael Sarrazin and Jennifer O'Neill, and Some Kind of Hero in 1982. But she appeared in more than 130 films and TV shows. I always associate her with Lois Lane. I associate Christopher Reeve with Superman. I associate Gene Hackman with Lex Luthor. I mean, that original Superman movie did it for me. The summer it came out, its only bigger competition at the box office was Grease.
Oh, well, that would be a tough one.
And in fact, I think Grease did better. Now, Margot Kidder also was known for having a breakdown in 1996. She was diagnosed as bipolar. She was almost homeless for a while because she was a little bit out of control and crazy. But how she got the part of Lois Lane, though, was a kind of a funny story. So Mr. Donner, or the director Donner, was casting her one day, or he was doing casting. She was approaching the casting office and tripped on the way in. Now, who knows if that was set up or not, but apparently the way she tripped into the office, the way she recovered, and the way she said hello to the director, he just looked at her and thought, I've got my Lois Lane. Now, tell me that's not a crazy way of landing one of the biggest parts in movies, right? I got my Lois Lane.
I wonder how much she got paid for that gig.
You know,
back then,
scale was very different back then. Very different.
Because you wonder about a lot of it, because that was obviously a iconic part for her, and then probably everything beyond, maybe Amityville Horror. But I often wonder about some of those actors or actresses.
She did other Superman movies, but after that,
and I think they get to the point where now you become irrelevant in Hollywood, right?
You know.
And then you probably didn't make as much money as everybody thought.
One of the reasons I was a little bit kind of sad about this was I'm watching my pop culture past literally drop off. Boom, boom. All these actors and actresses that were in the TV shows we grew up with, the movies we loved, they're all dying. So I'm like, oh my God. And then I thought to myself, if the only thing you ever did was play Lois Lane against Christopher Reeve in Superman, you're immortalized. You know how many times they're going to watch? They're going to play that movie. It's on DVD, Blu-ray, streams. I mean, she is. It's kind of a weird career, isn't it? Being an actress. So anyway, those two things: a dog that had to have closure, and an actual visitation/wake to get back to normal after losing their owner, and Margot Kidder
and bullying plants. What else?
The show of shows today.
Totally complete the fruit basket. We've got our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
I don't know how to pronounce the first name. Wladziu.
Oh, isn't that the Walachuku, or it's his original name, right?
Right. So whatever that is, Wladziu, Waldziu. I guess like a Walter, maybe.
Yeah, Waldziu.
Valentino Liberace.
The Rings.
The American pianist, entertainer, and actor, born on this day, May 16th, 1919, in Wisconsin. Died at 67 years of age in February 1987 in Palm Springs of complications of AIDS. He, of course, best remembered for reinventing classical piano music and presenting it to his audience with a larger-than-life concert. They said there was always music in his house, and he was encouraged to play music, and he was a child prodigy. They said at 4 years old he could play almost any tune that he heard on the piano. I still can't sit at a piano and play chopsticks, let alone sit down and play something that you
just heard.
I want to play the piano. I can't. And my fingers are big enough, I think. I don't know. Anyway, although he was a musical genius, I didn't realize this, he suffered from speech problems as a child. He was also very effeminate. He enjoyed cooking instead of sports, and thus often ridiculed by the children. There he is in his patriotic outfit. Happy 4th.
Which I believe we saw. We'll jump in on the...
Yeah, so now, truth be told, my partner here, Mr. Nash's husband, is a huge Liberace aficionado, right?
In fact, when we started...
You had the boots, you had everything.
When we started dating, Liberace was alive, and one day Bob says to me, I want to see Liberace at Radio City Music Hall. Now, go back. I'm 20...
Did you go?
I was 22, 23.
It was his last show.
It was one of his last tours. It was the Dancing Waters. a bunch of us at lunch, because I was a typesetter, I was like, working in the bullpen at an ad agency, and he comes out with this Liberace thing. And I remember Andrea and Dina, these two girls I work with, they're like, what? We'd rather see the Talking Heads. And they started naming all these bands.
Right.
Liberace, Bob, are you crazy? I regret it to this day.
Yeah,
should have gone to see.
Bob was right. Well, I'm going to go through a couple of the things, facts, and I'm wondering if Bob knew all these. So when Bob listens this weekend, maybe he'll learn something today. I don't know. So John and I went to the Liberace Museum, but as everyone knows, he was known for his wearing exotic costumes with long, heavy fur-like capes. He would build these grand sets. He had elaborate entrances and exits. He always had the candelabra, but they're calling it a candelabrum.
Candelabra. Candelabrum is plural.
Yeah, well, they said he had candelabrum over his custom piano. He even lived in a piano-themed home, which is now in disrepair in Vegas. I don't know if you've seen it. It's in foreclosure. Yeah. Sad. He also created an impact on many other musicians like Elvis Presley and Elton John. And the one thing I took away on the tour that you and I had done there was Liberace. And if you think about how smart this is, and every single entertainer has done this, he said, don't go out on stage wearing what everyone else has on. So don't go out in a blue tux or whatever. You have to be the center of the stage. Wear bright yellow, wear gold, wear sequins, da-da-da-da-da, be noticed. And if Elvis picked that up.
Oh, didn't he tell that to Elvis?
He told it to Elvis, told it to Elton John, told it to Cher.
Have a shtick.
You got to get out there, and now you got the focal.
Larger than life.
Let people look at you. People are looking at you, and what a brilliant thing from a business and a branding standpoint. And so there were a couple of fast facts here. I thought they said he skipped radio. So he started in the 40s, and he wanted to do TV and movies. Why did he skip radio, John? There was no visual appeal.
He wouldn't have the candelabra on the piano. He couldn't have the sparkly.
So he had no interest in radio.
100-pound costumes.
Yep. 1954, he set a record. He earned $138,000 for a single performance at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
In 1956, it was a very eventful year. Apart from performing with Elvis on stage, he also performed in Havana, Cuba, and then toured Europe. He appeared in 2 Batman series. They said he played a double role of a concert pianist and a gangster twin.
Shondell and his evil twin. Bob has the episode. It's hysterical. There's a scene where he's revived from being unconscious. He goes, how does he say it again? He goes, bless my eyes or something. Is it the dynamic duo? And Batman goes, yes, it is. Or I forget the exact line, but it's a crazy episode.
He earned more money than any other entertainer in Las Vegas at $300,000 plus a week.
Wow.
During the 70s and 80s. The Liberace Museum was opened in 1978 as part of the foundation he did for raising money for kids with music. And
there he is as Shondell. John found the clip.
Then he said his last stage performance was November 2nd, 1986 at Radio City Music Hall, and his final TV appearance was on Oprah Winfrey, and I watched it last night on Christmas Day. It's fascinating to know he died less than 2 months later. But you could see the makeup on him. And he was actually, the stories were great. He was really, really on top of it. His biggest selling hit, do you know what that is?
Oh, it's not his biggest selling hit. Was it one of the polka things he did?
No, it was Ave Maria.
Ave Maria. Okay, yep. Wow.
And it says he was a homosexual and quite secretive about it because he wanted to not offend his large female base.
Yeah.
He popularized the phrase laughing all the way to the bank. Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
So they said that in 1954, he wrote a scathing letter to a critic who gave him a scathing review. He sarcastically wrote to the reviewer, "Thanks so much for the review. My brother and I laughed all the way to the bank after reading it."
Because they made, to this day, isn't he one of, historically, from an inflation-adjusted point of view, the highest paid entertainer?
Guinness Book of World Records, highest paid entertainer. He was an early champion of Barbra Streisand, which we found out at the museum. She did not return the favor.
No, she did not.
They said she was a huge bomb in Vegas, Barbra Streisand, and it wasn't until Liberace went on stage and introduced her for 2 weeks that the public finally took a liking to her. I've always hated Streisand. I don't know what her appeal was. Do you like her?
I've not been a big. I've not.
No, that's anti-LGBT.
I don't dislike her. It's not anti-LGBT.
Well, all the gays love Barbra Streisand.
So what? They all love the movie All About Eve. But that's a legitimate. I don't know. Streisand was never a big thing.
One last thing. Betty White was his beard.
Was she really?
So they were very close friends, and they both had the same television producer, and they would make Liberace escort her to events to make it look like that they were dating.
Okay.
And then Betty White said, she said, I acted as his beard. She recalls an incident when she accompanied him to a movie premiere one windy night, and she started to slip, and instead of reaching out to hold her hand, he made sure his hair stayed on. He grabbed his wig. So he was focused on his hairpiece rather than whether I fell or not. And then he invented a disappearing toilet. He had a patent for it and everything. Said he designed a retracting toilet that folded into the wall of a bathroom. He said there's really no reason you should walk into a bathroom and see a toilet. And this was
Except,
in 1981.
of course, that's what the bathroom's for.
He said he had a patent on the rotating toilet, but it just never took off. Happy birthday, Lee.
And we were the last live broadcast from the Liberace Museum. Shut it down after that.
So those are the pictures. Yes, there we were. That was another funny show.
That was a very funny show.
Yeah. So we were there. You were very sick. Remember how sick you were?
Oh my God!
You had no voice.
I had and they kept saying, "Oh, honey, you have desert voice." I'm like, "No, I had a full-on nasal like sinus infection is what it was."
And then you found that other picture that got a lot of play. I didn't know you put that in there.
Yeah, John, there's that same
picture of us in front of a car.
It's our next one to the right of that. That when we first posted, everybody loved that picture because of Tim's pants.
And all anybody talked about was the pants.
John laughing in the booth.
Close up on it because I can't. So we were laughing about it. Everybody kept making a comment, and I said to John, I don't know if it was the underwear I had on or what it was, but we were laughing, and all anyone did is make a point about the
pants. Yeah.
And as Frank DeCaro said, well, there's worse things they could talk about.
There's far worse things people could talk about, yeah. I was striking my Christopher...
You were doing your pose, your Christopher Reeve pose.
My Superman pose. Excellent business birthday, and I'm sure that Bob, when we hear this on the weekend, he's going to chime in with a few other things.
I was hoping he could call in and let us know. Maybe he can fill us in.
All right, as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we love working with them. Visit focusgroupradio.com, look on the right-hand side of our page, and click on the Deep Discount logo, and begin your shopping experience. Urge you to visit the site. I have fun there every time I'm there because you can go down I call it multiple rabbit holes. You could do music, books, games, DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K, the whole bit.
You know, those lottery tickets, candy.
Candy, Twizzlers. They should buy the old Necco wafer company and start, anyway.
That's a good idea.
Well, you get the old...
It wasn't a lot of money. You and I could have scraped it together with a few extra credit cards, maybe.
You and I could have scraped together the Necco.
Still hasn't sold.
So this week, a favorite sale of mine is the horror and sci-fi sale. And in fact, I think it's there's a special part of the sale where if an item has that little alien head on it, I always love the Area 51 head, you get even more off. So it's a great time to buy a movie or a TV show that you've been meaning to get for a while. We always curate this for you, and I picked a movie that could not be further apart from the one Tim picked. So I had two in mind. I was going to talk about Super 8, J.J. Abrams' horror/sci-fi movie that was executive produced by Steven Spielberg, but I went with a Jared Leto film called Mr. Nobody.
I don't know that one.
It's a fascinating film. Let me recommend this to anybody who buys Mr. Nobody. Make sure when you watch it, you're not going to fall asleep. Be like Up.
Well, if that isn't a resounding...
Well, because the movie requires a lot of thinking because he plays a man who's 118 years old in a future where death is really just something that doesn't happen. People could live for a long time. And he recounts the story of his life, and you don't know whether what he's telling you is actually what happened or what he would have thought happened had he made different decisions at key points, 18, 20-something, and 34.
It's like Proust.
Not bad, Tim. I'd say that's probably, yeah. And
Which will put you right to sleep.
So it's beautifully shot. Jared Leto does a great job. It's some great acting. I finished the film and I was blown away by just this insane concept of how our lives are totally made up of chance decisions and where they go. And that's kind of what really...
How old is it?
Oh, I don't know if you could zoom in. I think this came out about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, they're moving in on the, there it is, year 2009.
Was the release date?
Yeah. The original release date, 2009. If you go down a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, original year, 2009. So, okay, 9 years ago.
I haven't heard of, those sort of things, I get crazy with those sort of movies because I want to
I will tell you, Bob was not a huge. I got more out of it than Bob did, and in fact, Bob kind of checked out at a certain point. But again, it's a smartly done science fiction film. And what did you pick?
Well, I picked one by M. Night Shyamalan, who's,
Well, we used to call him Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Shyamalama Ding Dong, because I could never pronounce his name. But he did a movie it's the last horror movie that I saw, and it's not horror in the gory sense. But I got a chill, I'm getting one now about it. It was the creepiest. Did any of you see The Visit? It is the creepiest movie, and I'm getting a chill now about it. If you like that sort of odd suspense and mind bend, so here the quick thing is there was a woman who's estranged from her parents, and she ends up reconnecting with her parents, but she's got two teenagers, a 13 and 15-year-old. And so the grandparents said, we'd love to see the grandchildren. She said, well, I'm going away on a work trip. Why don't I send them up? So she puts them in Philadelphia on the train up to Bucks County, beautiful little farm. And the kids get with Nana and Pop-Pop. I'm getting a chill now thinking about it. So Nana and Pop-Pop, Grandma, they arrive and she's baking a cake and everything's happy. Little farm in Bucks County, and the grandma's rules are:
do not
have a great time, eat as much as you want, but don't ever leave your room after 9:30 p.m. So don't tell a kid don't leave your room.
Yeah.
So I'm there screaming, don't leave the room. Well, things go south.
So yesterday, Tim and I are on the phone doing one of our multiple conference calls, and we're organizing the show. And I said, "Okay, I've not seen this." And you know, do you want to?
You've not seen it?
No. And you said, "Do you want to know? Do you want to know?" And at the minute you told me the twist, I was like, "Oh my God, I gotta watch this movie."
Because he did The Sixth Sense, and I figured The Sixth Sense out right away. Everybody said, "Oh, I couldn't figure it out to the end."
Dead people.
I did not figure this movie out until.
Don't say it.
Until it happened.
And then when you told me what the twist was.
Then it really goes south. And then you just can't imagine how horrifying this would be if this really happened to somebody.
Yeah, so
anyway, I recommend that movie, The Visit.
You couldn't have two different movies, Mr. Nobody, The Visit, and the release of this week is a movie that is definitely on my list. John just saw it. It's Black Panther.
What'd you think?
It was so cool.
Everybody says it's great. Yeah,
awesome. Many different levels. Very good.
Yep.
John, I've been reading and hearing from friends that this is like the superhero movie. If they had to have one, this is it.
It was very cool. It had everything. Cool tech. The girl saves the day. Cool cultural aspect, and made you think. And it was just fun. Good action. It was great.
Yeah, this is on my list. I'm definitely going to order it from Deep Discount.
And let's not. Cover over. It's the first superhero movie with African American.
Totally
depiction.
great,
Right.
yeah, totally cool cast.
And it really, it was really groundbreaking in that.
This was one of the biggest box offices. Period. So I'm looking forward to it because Chadwick Boseman, who reprises the role because he originated Black Panther and Captain America: Civil War. He's in it. Michael B. Jordan, who plays his nemesis, Killmonger. And, of course, they're from this part I did not know about. So Wakanda, the kingdom they're from, somehow had access to alien metal named vibranium.
Yeah, it landed there from an asteroid.
The Scientologist.
A long time ago.
Okay.
And they mine it, and that's how it all happened.
I got it. Okay. So there you go.
You didn't want to hear my Scientology.
I heard Scientology coming. I heard.
I'm going to make John go to Scientology.
If it's the last thing.
Auditing, if it's the last thing.
I'm going to hold the cans, right? I'm going to hold the cans.
So go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. As John picked, he picked Mr. Nobody on Blu-ray. I picked The Visit.
Giving you chills already.
And the new release is Black Panther, which everybody recommends as it was the blockbuster of last year and probably this year still. So, hey, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back... Oh!
Thanks, Deep Discount.
You didn't see that? Well, maybe you did see it off screen. I missed my cue. I'm not back, John. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got the random sample where John and I share a few stories that we've... cultivated. No, what did we do? Curated from around the U.S. and the world. So stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. We're just talking about The Visit.
Because I screamed like a schoolgirl.
Screamed like a schoolgirl. And those are the kind of movies I really love. I don't need to have blood and axes and chainsaws. I like the psychological horror. All right, time for the random sample. That's where Tim and I look at headlines from the LGBT community from around the U.S. primarily, but around the world as well. I think, do I kick it off?
Yep.
Okay, so I kick it off. And Tim and I, me and Tim, covered this topic on our Unbuttoned audio podcast about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. And that was the increasing persistence of the death of conversion therapy, meaning more and more states and cities and municipalities in the U.S. primarily are banning the practice. Well, Maryland joined the club. And they're now the 13th state, along with the District of Columbia, that has now banned conversion therapy for gay minors. Conversion therapy is the practice typically involving psychotherapy and spiritual means to change someone's sexual orientation. I often puzzle about how that would have worked with me.
Marcus Bachman teaches it, John. I can send you out to Minnesota.
Numerous medical associations condemn the practice. They say that it doesn't work and in many cases can have detrimental effects such as depression and more. And you recounted this on the Unbuttoned podcast about a friend that you knew that is still to this day suffering from the after effects of this. So Governor Larry Hogan signed SB 1028 into law, and the bill prohibits mental health or child care practitioners from engaging in conversion therapy with minors. If they do so, it now falls under unprofessional conduct subject to disciplinary action. And another statistic that's a little scary to me, and you recounted this earlier on Unbuttoned, was UCLA released a study this year revealing more than 70,000 teens in the U.S. face conversion therapy before adulthood. 75,000? It's a scary number.
Yeah. And most of it's religious-based.
Yeah. So thank you, Maryland, for joining the club and for banning it or for making it a unprofessional conduct subject to disciplinary action. So that was my first random sample.
First one, and I saw that one too, and that's a good update. And thankfully, the states are doing what the federal government can't seem to do. Mine is, the headline is, and this came from, I believe I found this on the Huffington Post, but it's been reported in a number of places. But on July 13th, President Donald Trump is making a trip to the UK. So the drag queens there have decided to plan a huge protest for Trump's UK visit. It's led by a drag queen named Cheddar Gorgeous.
Cheddar as in the cheese?
Cheddar as in cheese. She said the UK is prepping for the protest of Donald Trump's visit to London. While it's not an official state visit, which he's trying to plan later in the year, he still wants to meet with the Queen, and she has not yet decided whether that's going to happen or not. There's more than 1,000 people are confirmed to attend the event called Drag Protest Against Trump UK Visit. Another 7,000 have listed themselves as interested. And the reason they gave to the press, The Guardian in England, was due to the appalling way the Trump administration has regarded the rights and welfare of LGBTQI communities in the United States. The idea of a Trump visit to the United Kingdom is unacceptable. We want to be visible and stand with our sisters and brothers in America to show them that our country celebrates diversity like we know many of them do in the States as well. So somebody else jumped on the protest. So there's another group, which is part of a larger group of 123,000 people. So the drag queens are joining with another group of protesters, and then there's another group of 43,000. So if you're planning to go to London, see the change of the guard at the Buckingham Palace.
Almost 250,000 people in drag and the other group.
Protesting the president. So then I like this one, though. So you know the group Green Day?
Yeah.
So they were famous for a song called American Idiot. So they've started their own campaign that they want everybody to download the song American Idiot. And they gave the dates. If you download it between Friday the 6th and Thursday the 12th of
they get it for free.
Of July. No, it will shoot to the #1 chart in the UK, and on every radio station they'll be playing American Idiot while Trump is in the UK.
That's what I call a clever protest. That's what I call clever.
So they said this will hit perfectly as he arrives on the UK soil. The number 1 hit in the UK will be American Idiot by Green Day. And Green Day is supporting it and offering the downloads. And so I just thought it was an interesting thing. It reminded me, well, I think it's an interesting protest. And obviously Trump has been, what's the word I'm looking for, John? I don't know. He's been polarizing.
Well, to say the least, yeah.
So
but I also think that that's the funniest twist and the smartest one, the American Idiot one, yeah, because that's.
They said the other thing, they were obviously upset about Trump's ban with the military, about the trans bathroom issues, all the things that we know have been going on here regarding the administration that was supposed to be LGBT friendly. And they said the best thing that drag does in this particular sense is make you visible. And they said that's why they think it's important. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets picked up while he's there.
I like that. Well, that was a good one. And I now have an even greater appreciation for Green Day.
Well, maybe we should post on Facebook and we'll say, download American, download.
You got to do it, though, so it affects the UK chart.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know how to do that.
My second, a lot of my random sample research and some of my articles came from gaystarnews.com, which if you've not visited Gaystar News, check it out. They have whole categories and some great reporting. And they report on U.S. stuff, too, which I think is great. And so this story came from them, but it was New York City firefighter told to have sex with stripper to prove he wasn't gay.
Is that the stripper or is that the firefighter?
That's the firefighter. His name is Michael Troina, Troina, Troina. Young recruit alleges he faced homophobic abuse during bizarre hazing rituals. A New York City firefighter recruit was told to have sex with a stripper to prove he wasn't a faggot, a lawsuit alleges. Michael Troina, a former FDNY employee, claimed members of Ladder Company 1, Engine Company 6 subjected him to vicious hazing rituals. The lawsuit suggests colleagues stomped on his bunker gear, smeared peanut butter on his car, and superimposed his face on a picture of a crying baby. Troina alleges he was singled out time and again on account of his race and national origin as a Hispanic American male, as well as his perceived homosexuality. Now, I say that because he's straight. He's a straight guy.
You just thought he was soft.
Whatever they thought, Troina said colleagues tried to coerce him to go to a strip club and regularly harassed him by encouraging him to have sex with a stripper. When he refused, he was called a faggot and a loser. So
did they get him a stripper?
No, they wanted him to go to a club and pick one up and...
See, I didn't know if maybe they brought a stripper to the firehouse, had a pole, do a dance.
So he was... it sounds like a fraternity. Other abuse he suffered was the following: being forced to eat orange juice, and they put it in quotes, with a fork from 12 different plates and then wash the plates. Being told he could not do the job like the other white firefighters because he is Hispanic. Being called a closet homo. He was excluded from a firehouse volleyball outing, where he was told later they had people who were making fun of him. On the day after the outing, he came into work and one of his coworkers did a impression of him, which was not very flattering. He told his supervisor, who said, "It's in good fun. Don't take it, don't take it too hard."
Well, he bullied the guy.
Yeah. And then he was... Troina told the New York Post he at first tried to shrug it off as being the new guy. He was fired 7 days before he had completed his probationary period. The FDNY claims that this is a ridiculous thing, and he was fired because he failed his evaluation.
I just don't know, because he was stressed out. Imagine going to an environment like that every day.
I just don't know why he would make that up. Like I could you make up eating orange juice with a fork off 12? Like who?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be different. Did you ever remember Girls Gone Wild?
Yeah.
The New York firefighter, he got let go because he was in that movie. He had to, hose down to his knee. It was unbelievable. You should look at the video. He was unbelievable. Good-looking guy, too. But anyway, I thought you were going to go that way.
Company 11.
Well, I don't know, but I'll find it for you. I'll show it to you. But I that's why I was wondering, okay, I guess he could have said, unless somebody took him to the strip club and said, "I want you to go back with this girl." I mean, that's kind of...
So look...
I feel dirty after that.
I always had this impression of firefighters and policemen as being, better than most people because the job they're in is so stressful.
And you see it all, and
you see exactly right. You see it all. You deal with it. Any person that's up there that has to be rescued, that's a person that has to be rescued. But then you hear this bullshit behavior in the engine company house, and you're like, really? Really? 2018, and you're telling some guy to have sex with a stripper because you think he's gay, and prove it. Prove you're not. I mean, there are plenty of gay people who could have sex with a woman that doesn't necessarily. You know what I mean?
Listen, you tell me.
So that was mine. What's your number 2?
My number 2 came from the Republic of Vermont. Anyone who knows Vermont knows that they really think they're better than everyone else, but it really is a crazy state. I'll say that on the top. Vermont lawmakers passed gender-neutral bathroom bill to send powerful message. Okay. So this came from the Rainbow Times in New England's largest LGBT newspaper. So there's a little sign there if you're watching the video.
Every bathroom is for everybody.
Well, here's what I don't understand, and I put lots of Y's on this. So they made a big deal about this press release. So the governor, Phil Scott, a Republican, on Friday, it was passed unanimously by the state Senate and overwhelmingly in the majority of the House, that all single-user bathrooms, public bathrooms in the state of Vermont, are to be marked as a gender-neutral bathroom, and has been it includes all public buildings, places of public accommodation, schools, restaurants, workplaces, etc. My question about the whole thing is if it's a single-use bathroom,
it's already
gender neutral. It'd be like putting a sign at your house. Right, it'd be like having you have a sign at your house that says "gender neutral bathroom." Mom, you want to use the bathroom? It's okay.
It's the only bathroom, right?
So, and they made this big, huge release about it, about how if it is the only bathroom, this is going to be a great thing because at available single-user bathrooms, people won't have anxiety about using the restroom and ... And I was thinking about all the different places I've been that have just one bathroom. We've been to small restaurants or cafes. It just says bathroom. Or water closet or WC or restroom. Why would you have to put gender neutral on there? So I thought this was much to do about nothing, and exactly right. And they said this was in response to all the anti-bathroom bills that have been done in the South. And they said the state of New Hampshire, Governor Sununu, also a Republican, is also going to sign a non-discrimination bill for gender identity into law, making it the last New England state without such a law. And we all know New England is very progressive, probably the most progressive area in the country in terms of human rights laws. But I thought this was a story about nothing because
already
it's a gender-neutral bathroom already. If it's a single-use bathroom.
So does that mean if you had an event and you brought in a bunch of those portable potties,
right,
you could actually slap a sign on, say gender neutral, but that's the same thing, right?
It's a porta potty.
A porta potty is general.
Now, I will say, I've said this to you, at the airports now, they've got the male, men, women, and then they do have a gender
Those are the nicest
neutral bathroom. I go to that one all the time. It's clean, it's big, it's open, and no one uses it. Everyone's afraid. I'm in there, have a good time. You could do a dance. And they're a great bathroom.
Dance.
So use the ones at the airports. My college did gender neutral bathrooms too. I loved it. Nobody uses them.
And it's I'm with you. I'll take privacy any day. It doesn't matter what sign's on the door. If it's private, I'm in.
Unless I read something wrong on this, that's why I picked the stories, because as a single user bathroom. So now the government's going to make you pay money for a sign.
Yeah. My last, again from Gay Star News, my last caught my eye is a very brief one. The headline reads, and it's from Mexico, our friends to the south. 17
Build that wall.
17 men were busted pretending to be trans women to run for office in Mexico. Election authorities in the Mexican state of Oaxaca, Oaxaca. Was it?
Stapa.
Stapa?
Yeah, Stapa.
Oh, okay, have disqualified 17.
I don't know why you just don't say Mexico.
Well, that's the district. 17 candidates.
You struggle with these words all the time.
You're right. I should
say, in a city in Mexico.
In a city in Mexico. There you go. That really does solve the problem, I'll just tell you. 17 candidates who they believe are cisgender. Cisgender means natural, like normal men, like men. I get all very confused by it. Pretending to be transgender women. in that Mexican city that I mentioned before that I can't pronounce, political parties are required to nominate an equal number of men and women, which I thought was very progressive, in order to ensure women's representation in government. 19 registered, 19 men, 17 claiming to be, or 19 candidates registered by the 5 parties as transgendered women. But 17 were then picked out and said, no, they're not transgender, because this organization down there looked at all their pictures and stuff. Well, but he's got a family, he's got this. And so all their authorities like, okay, let's not play the game here. But it goes back to something interesting. In Zapotec cultures, which is that Zapotec was this region of Mexico, there's something called a mux, an M-U-X-E, or muxes, and these are people that are assigned male at birth who present as women and are sometimes seen as a third gender. So there's a cultural thing where they actually, that transgenderism and gender fluidity is actually part of this whole thing, but these guys are just gaming the system. They had families. They were, I
think that's actually, I know I'll be in trouble. I think it's kind of funny, but I guess it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out the system, right?
That's exactly what one of these women from one of these organizations said. She goes, this happens all the time. They just want to get the seat on the council. They don't care how they get it. So that was my third one.
And this one, my third one came from the Dallas Voice. It says, Mansfield teacher sues district. And she's charging discrimination based on sexual orientation. Her name is Stacey Bailey. So essentially, she's a teacher at a school in Mansfield, Texas, outside of Dallas. The school's name is Charlotte Anderson Elementary School. And at the beginning of the school year each year, the teachers share with all their students kind of things they did over the summer, family pictures. Here's me with my dog. Here's me with my kids. Here's us at the amusement park. Here's us on vacation, ...
What did she share?
One of the pictures she showed was her family and friends and things they did. And then she showed a picture of her and her fiance at the time, which is now her wife. And most of the kids, no big deal. But one kid went home and complained.
Wow.
And so then the school district let her go.
Wow.
And then there were some other parents that rallied around to say that, we should, they complained that she was bringing in the homosexual agenda, essentially, to the classroom.
That agenda again.
Right.
I never got the bulletin on that.
No, none of us did.
There's an agenda.
And so she had taught at the school for 10 years. She was teacher of the year twice. She said on the first day of school, it's common practice for all of us to share pictures of family and friends. And she said that she did nothing different than anyone else. So then the school district said, well, we'll send you to another school. And she said, no, I don't want to go to another school. I want to continue working here. And she said, and by me saying I'll go to another school, it means it's all right for you, the school district, to pick where you choose LGBT employees should work. So this also happened at a university with an English teacher as well. Something happened. So her attorney has been fighting this, and she has been rehired, but it's still going to go to court. And it said because she's promoting a lifestyle in the classroom. And this is what Michelangelo, we all say, it's not a lifestyle. She's born this way. Being LGBT is not a lifestyle.
Well, the promotion part. So you and I we're paid hucksters. We're advertising guys. We know what a promotion is, right? Mm-hmm. Putting a picture on a table and saying, that's my fiance and me at a picnic. That's not promotion.
Right.
That is not promoting anything. That's simply telling you what's in the picture.
It's not a lifestyle. It's like saying being straight's a lifestyle. Yeah, Tell me what the straight lifestyle is. So it's not a lifestyle. And then she also said, the attorney responded and said, you know what? I should be able to say, this is my wife without fear of harassment. When I state a fact about my life, it's not a political statement, and I am legally married.
Yeah.
She said, so I am legally married, but I'm not allowed to show the picture of my wife. And so the school district is trying to make this go away, but she says she's pushing for them to at least apologize, which they haven't done yet. And then the interesting thing was then some parents had chimed in. And just two quick kind of counterpoint. One parent says, I'm not going to make any comment about Mrs. Bailey's personal life, as that's her personal choice. But as a parent, I have a choice, and I care very much about my children. I don't want my children to go to school and be influenced by a teacher and her personal lifestyle.
Wow.
Children are very pure and naive. I don't want them taught or influenced that being gay is right or being gay is fun. Our school children need to be protected. So another parent writes, being gay is right and fun if you're born gay. And it said, if your children are traumatized by this toxic homophobia, then this information would, if your children are not traumatized by this toxic homophobia, this information should not harm them. You need parent training, in my opinion. Anyone who raises their child to hate others based upon their sexual orientation is a bad parent. May God forgive you because Jesus would sure cast anger upon you. So that was the counterpoint with the parents that were right at her. So again, this is stuff still happening. This was last week that this was reported.
Oh, it's not going away anytime soon. And I think if you think it is, then you are definitely living in a bubble, a real bubble, because this is not going away.
Well, the interesting part to me is what you said. Why should I feel harassment when I am legally married?
Yeah.
Legally married. So, hey, that was the random sample. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got a very, very quick shop talk we want to share with you about Stoli vodka. So stay with us.
Booze again.
Booze again.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
And in business a week, I got more money and I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Shopping.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is your destination for all information about the show. We're going to wrap up with a really quick shop talk. And the reason this crossed Tim's radar, actually, once he told me about it, it kind of surprised me as well, is this is Stoli Vodka is unveiling a Harvey Milk dedicated special edition bottle based on a mural that's being done by a Paraguayan artist named Oz Montania. And it's out in San Francisco. The minute Tim told me about this, though, I actually thought it was another brand. I
did too.
Another iconic brand that's been a supporter of the LGBT community for 25, 30 years. So this was a surprise to me, actually, and a pleasant surprise. But
no, so as many of you know, Harvey Milk was, he made history in 1977. He was the first LGBT person who won elective office in the city as well as in the state of California. And then, of course, but he was assassinated on November 27, 78. And since then, for the last 4 decades, he's become a bit of a global icon in the LGBT community. And so Stoli, I read this and I saw the bottle, and if you're watching on the video, you'll see the bottle and you'll see part of the mural that's going to be done. I thought, oh, Absolute's doing another campaign because Absolute always did these special bottles.
It's Stoli.
And then I read it again and I thought Stoli, and we all know that Stoli was boycotted because during the Sochi games there was thought the Russians were anti-LGBT.
But they're not really
and people associated Stoli with being Russian vodka, and though it's Russian vodka, they're based in the Baltics, which Latvia, and he was, I believe, Lithuanian. Mm-hmm. So when Stoli was being bombarded with this boycott, they decided to team up with the Harvey Milk Foundation. They're doing these bottles, which they say will be collector's editions. They're not charging a premium for them. And they go on sale. I believe they're going to be unveiled May 22nd out in San Francisco.
Only 50,000 bottles are being made, and already distributors and people familiar with the project wish they were making triple that amount because they're apparently going to sell very quickly. But they're doing that mural that was if you happen to be watching, it's a picture of, or if you're not watching, I'll describe it. It's a picture of, it's an artist's interpretation of Harvey Milk holding up a bullhorn. Yep. One of those classic old, come on down, bullhorns. And that mural will be duplicated on the side of a wall in the Castro area by a bar that we actually know on Market Street. I think it was Market Street, right?
The cafe?
Yeah, the cafe, Market and Castro. And of course, they're going to do a Stoli lounge around it, but it's all centered on this Harvey Milk Day, which I think is pretty interesting. But as advertising and marketing guys, me and Tim were both amused by this because this is a very clear, to me, this is kind of the domain of
Absolute.
But if you drop the crown, if you don't pay attention to it, someone else is going to come in and take it. And I think it's a really good effort they're doing. And I think did Stoli also take over the drag race? RuPaul's Drag
You know,
Race?
I haven't watched it, but I think you had mentioned that before. And both both Absolute and Subaru were kind of the darlings of LGBT branding, marketing support from the 90s through the early 2000s.
Yep.
And when Subaru went away from the market, they still do one event, but when they went away and stopped the advertising and stopped the marketing and stopped the recognition of the LGBT consumer directly or one-on-one, you and I were surprised that nobody really said anything. Nobody cared. And
crazy.
And it's the same with Absolute a little bit. I went and I Googled Absolute afterwards to see if they're doing anything. In fact, they do have some issues, or they do have some campaigns they're doing digitally, and some tasting events and so forth they're doing that are LGBT specific. But talk about brands that have seemed to have kind of just moved on. I don't know if that's the right word.
The word I'd like to use is when we were kids and we would go sledding, the best part of sledding was when you could coast.
Yeah.
So after you had the biggest part of the hill, the further out you can go without any extra energy was
Bumping your legs.
the big win. So I think that Subaru's been coasting on a history that we helped create for them when they were actively in the market and they were there for all the right reasons. And Absolute was somewhat the same, but this Stoli thing, I think, is a prime example of a brand saying, "Hey, we're going to do this," and they had no regard for I don't say it that way, but I'm sure that other marketing teams might have said, "Hey, this is the purview of a different brand," or no, we're going to do this because it's Harvey, because he's Lithuanian, it's Latvia. We want to dispel some myths. And they also made significant contributions to the center, the Harvey Milk Center in San Francisco, and we're not talking like $500. We're talking, thousands of dollars. So there's a lot of heart behind it. So pretty cool thing.
The other one takeaway that I had from that also, which surprised me, was they said they've done a study, and I guess Glad had posted this, that the amount of when you and I were doing the advertising, the figure was always somewhere between 6 and 7% of the population identified as LGBT. Do you know what they're saying millennials are now?
I heard a number that I was surprised. It was higher than 20-some%.
It was 20%. They said 20% of what they identify as millennials, I think born after 1992, was it?
Are now identifying as
LGBT, which I thought, gosh, talk about a big number. And if now more than ever, brands should be paying attention to the fact that they need to be more inclusive in their advertising.
So if I were in a meeting and you just told me this, based on all the knowledge that we have about the Kinsey studies, about how researchers have a difficult time of actually pinpointing the size of the LGBT population because people are nervous about self-identifying depending on the way the survey may be conducted. Now you look at that number of 20%, and what it tells me is Kinsey was probably right, but only by half. Because imagine if the number truly is 20%. Because they have no fear of telling you who they are, that generation, right?
No, they're a lot more open about it. And of course, well, I won't even go down that road, but whether you experimented or not, right? I mean,
there you go.
It's a whole different number.
There you go.
Up in the 90s. Anyway.
Hey, quick one for you, too. Last week, Bob and I went with our friends Alex and Tyler. They had suggested it, actually. We saw Boys in the Band.
A lot of controversy about it this week.
Because Jim Parsons, who played...
Canceled the show.
He tripped and hurt himself, and I don't know that he had an understudy, actually. That
made no sense to me.
Yeah. It's a kind of it's the cast... I'm not sure you can have understudies for these people. Jim Parsons did a great job. The cast was fantastic. And you remember the movie?
Yeah, but you said it was...
The movie really was a downer to me. The play, even though it's set exactly in the time frame it's supposed to be in the 68 or in the mid-60s, it sparkled in a different way. The language was clever. You relate to a lot of the characters, even though it's 2018. You're like, yeah, I get it. So, unfortunately, it's a limited run, and I do believe tickets are sold out.
Well, and they got a PR problem because the Facebook's going crazy. There were a lot of people. I knew there was a whole group of people from Philly that came up to see it, got hotels, spend the night. Shows canceled. They didn't let them know in time. They said people had come in from Europe to see it.
We lucked out. Alex and Tyler. Alex texted me one night. He's like, hey, this is back in January. He goes, Tyler's got a special discount on the tickets. Do you want to go? And I'm like, well, when is it? May. Well, May felt like A century. Suddenly May's here.
Then the day of, you wish you tripped the day.
But hey, could I just say that Alex and Tyler are two young guys who do very much care about gay history. So whenever we hear about millennials or the younger generation caring nothing about, they do care. They pay attention. They pay attention a great deal, and this was their idea, and so we felt it was great. It was
pay attention with one eyebrow up.
Exactly. Like, yeah, really? You guys really did that? Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. And as John mentioned at the top of the show, be sure to tune in on Tuesdays if you download our audio. We have TFG Unbuttoned, which comes out every Tuesday morning, which is a deeper dive or a quick deep dive into some pop culture, politics, and things that we don't necessarily get to on the show. And we're appreciative of all you that have been tuning into or listening to TFG Unbuttoned. I want to thank our friends at Deep Discount for supporting us here on the show. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. John's got something to say.
Get the visit.
Get the visit.
Get Mr. Nobody and get Black Panther.
Get the visit and get a chill. Thanks to Garrett. Thanks to John. Thanks to Allie. Thanks to the folks here for getting us out to you. And, of course, thanks to our friends at Volkswagen of America, one brand that's still
very
openly
much
talking to the LGBT community. If it's not for Volkswagen, we would not be with you each week. So we're very appreciative for their support of us and the show. Be sure to go to VW.com and check out the new cars. The new Arteon is very sexy. John and I just planned out our road trip for the Arteon this year. We'll hope for approval next week from Volkswagen, but we'll be heading to the West Coast. And then, of course, we do have a southern jaunt because we've got to see some of our friends in Alabama. Down in Alabama, we're going to come see it, we hope. Probably fall.
It may be because, well, yeah, because the weather.
Got to go to Chattanooga and get a car. Yeah. So anyway, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you Tuesday and then next Wednesday.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.